good evening. It's yet another brilliant Monday evening, and it is Atlantic Television Press Roundtable. ATN Press Roundtable, as its name sounds, is a program for journalists, media professionals, broadcast professionals, and what have you, journalists. And we gather here every evening, 7 to 8, Monday to Friday, to look at issues that are trending in the news, give insights and perspectives to them. Take them from different perspectives and from objective and balanced dispositions. Well, today is another day. Let's look at what is trending. Federal government reveals state of the economy. Cameroon Council report that Cameroon opens Lagos Jam, raising flood alert in Nigeria. And from Lagos State government apprehends vehicles without license plates. Food imports rise by 122%. Deficit hits 4.9 trillion. God. Bayelsa poll. How we must be blocked to retain government. That's Diri, Governor Diri. CSOs caution ECOWAS against war. That's on Niger. And from Bayelsa State, residents loot palliative house in Bayelsa. That's an interesting one. Well, these are some of the headlines. You can watch us live on our website, Atlantic Television Network.tv, on our mobile app, ATN Live, on YouTube and FaceTube Atlantic Television Network. Joining me is, I won't tell you until I come back from the short break. It is Press Roundtable, coming to you live from Garden City, and it is Atlantic Television Network, here in the city of Port Harcourt. Stay tuned. On a quick break, and we'll be right back. you're welcome back. It is still Atlantic Television Network Press Roundtable here in Port Harcourt. Well, let's look at some of the stories in details. We'll look at them. Federal government has said it inherited a bad economy with unacceptable high rate of unemployment. Previous State correspondent at the end of the inaugural Federal Executive Council meeting, presided by the President Bola Tinubu at Council Chambers, Presidential Villa Port Harcourt, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, said Tinubu's administration made a very bad economy with inflation at 24%. He also said the federal government is not in a position to borrow money at this time, adding that emphasis is on how to create a macroeconomic environment where both local and foreign investors will invest and increase production. This is as the president has promised to create about 50 million jobs through the Ministry of Trade and Investment. The government also assured Nigerians that the administration of President Bola Tinubu will not rely on borrowing and that he has pledged to be transparent, honest, and accountable to the people. Well, I have here Clem Lebeke in the studio. Clem, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Clem is a media professional and is a veteran, so I would like to say he's my fellow veteran. All right, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Well, you heard that story on the federal government economy, and that was coming at the first Federal Executive Council meeting. There was an inaugural meeting last week, and today we had first Federal Executive Council meeting, and they are talking with some level of responsibility and responsiveness, as it were. I'm happy they say they can't borrow, they won't borrow. They met an inflation rate of 24%, high rate of unemployment, and a lot of economic negatives. And they promised to increase the macroeconomic indices of Nigeria and all that. So what's your whole assessment of the whole thing?
Well, I want to thank God in the first place that they have realized that the economy is in a very bad state.
Yeah.
Because that is the first thing to do. That realization that the economy is in a bad state. Because if you don't believe that, if you don't come to that realization, then there is nothing you will do that will be able to transform the system. However, I want to also say that this is the same people who also were part of the other government.
Yeah.
The APC government. And I believe that the high rate of unemployment, these are things we have been talking about from the very beginning of the last administration, because we saw the way they were going, and it wasn't healthy for the entire nation. And the people around now, they are still the people that were there that time. And so if they have said that there are things we are going to do...
But they were not the core people in government.
They were not the core people, but I want to say that the president himself,
yes,
he was one of those that I will say he was one of those members of the advisory council, you know, as maybe the leader of the APC. However, if they have come to that realization now and they have said that they will not borrow, they are going to be sure that the rate of unemployment is brought down. Thank God. However, if they follow the steps of the previous administration, which of course we have started seeing some negative steps they have started taking now in terms of how to manage the economy. If they follow that steps, then we will still be here where we are now.
Yes. You're talking about the macroeconomic to remedy or remediate, as it were, the macroeconomic issues in the country. What about the microeconomic issues? A lot is involved in terms of reforming the economy. The so-called central bank reforms we are not seeing. The fiscal or financial policies don't seem to be...
They are not there.
Yielding any dividend. You're talking about creating jobs, unemployment is 24%. You have not told us how. But let us believe that they are, you know, because how to solve a problem is to do a diagnosis.
We have not even, they've not even given us data of how they are going to go about it.
Well,
I'm not sure that they even have a database of the unemployment rate that they are talking about.
No, 24% is MBS. There's a National Bureau for Statistics is there. And, okay, 24% is the inflation rate, yeah.
Is the inflation rate.
Okay, yeah.
It's not the data for unemployment.
Which is still the double-digit inflation and all that. Now, I think that we're looking forward to them too. They have done the diagnosis in every treatment of an ailment, a disease. You start with diagnosis. So let's take what they have said now as going into diagnosis of what the problem is.
Well, let's hope so.
Yes,
let's hope so.
Because that's what it looks like. Because I'm happy they realized they didn't tell us that the economy is in a very good mood. The economy is in a very sad mood, as it were, and all the indications they have given point to a broken economic structure. So let's hope that things will get better. But we are even getting worse. We are getting to worse situation because of some natural disasters. And it's been predicted. That's the next story. Well, Cameroon opens Lado Dam, raising flood alert in Nigeria. That's the story. Some flood-prone states say they have started taking steps to stem the tide of severe flooding that may result from release of water from the Lado Dam in Cameroon. The Cameroonian government had in a letter addressed to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, weakened, warned of its intention to release water from the Lago Dam and asked the agency to take precautionary measures. However, some states, which are the front line of the flooding caused by release of water from the dam, said they had already started taking steps to prevent loss of lives and destruction of property. Such states include Lagos, Benue, and Delta. Have also asked people living on floodplain-prone areas to relocate to higher grounds. Reacting to the alert from the Cameroonian government yesterday, Permanent Secretary of Lagos State Government Emergency Management Authority, LASEMA, Dr. Femi Oke Osanyun Tolu, assured of the state government's preparedness to properly tackle any possible emergency that could arise from the impending flood in the state. When I hear this, I guide my loins and get prepared to look at what government is about to do. Since they started releasing the water from the Lago Dam, there has always been a collaboration with federal government. There have always been this alert sent to NEMA. And of course, the frontline states, those that are vulnerable are the floodplains along the River Benue and all the water, all the, water-prone areas, for example, Lagos and all that, along the Niger Delta and beyond, always giving an alert. And Lagos is making preparations. Rivers State, I've heard they have set up a committee on flood, and I've heard Ministry of Health raising some alarm and all that. The problem I've had in the past is that we don't seem to prepare for this. We don't seem to prepare for it. And when the situation comes, in 2012, so many people died. In 2022,
last year
we have several tragedies of lives, loss of life and property. In Abuja, for example, the governor of Abuja, Yeso is talking about looking at construction sites, looking at the way they have built houses. All this leads to flooding, and they are part of the states that will be affected. In Rivers State, here, about 19 local government areas be affected.
But
and all that.
If I want to come into this straight,
you have to come into straight.
There is something I want to find out about the kind of government we run in Nigeria.
Yes.
It's because this is a country I see that we are never prepared for emergency.
Yes.
We are never prepared for emergency. And again, is there no permanent solution to this flooding in Nigeria? Is there no permanent solution? Is it that every year when we are being alerted by the Cameroonians that they want to open their dam, that is when we will start preparation? Is that what it is supposed to be? No, that is not what we are supposed to be doing. We are supposed to take proactive measures before these issues will come up. Last year, we lost so many lives. I remember I was to go to Bayelsa. I couldn't go because the flood was too much.
Cut off the road.
Cut off the road, and a lot of lives were lost. I don't understand why, since that last year till now. And of course, we were warned that this year it is going to be more than that of last year.
Everyone about rain, not about flood coming from the rain.
Yes.
Not the Lado Dam issue. So there's a complication now.
All right. And then if these people are saying that they want to open their dam and they've written to NEMA, what has NEMA put in place? Is it in the place of the state governments to start to handle flooding?
You see, the problem is this problem began in 1977 or more, or earlier. And Nigerian government was told about Nigeria was to construct its own dam. If you look at history, the dam that would have been receiving water from this and distributing into agricultural farms in the north.
I think right from the time of Obasanjo.
1977, before Obasanjo, Shagari, President Shehu Shagari. But Nigeria refused to build their own dam. You know, for this 79, Shagari was 79, right?
Shagari was 79.
Yes, thereabout.
Obasanjo was 77. 77, yes. 76, 77, yes.
You may be right, Obasanjo time, yes.
It's Obasanjo time.
77, yes. And Nigeria was to build a dam, let's say a complementary one or a composite one, that will receive water
receive the water from that larger dam.
And then throw into agri farms and all that. That would have solved this problem. But as we speak, we are refused to build that dam. And so Nigeria is now a vulnerable pool that receives water from that dam. And what happens, this water is thrown into the Benue River and then splashes into Niger and spreads all over the country, drowning cities, drowning homes, killing people at random. And there's nothing anybody can do from what experts are saying unless we do something about damming that aspect, that part of our boundary with Cameroon.
And are you saying that they've not been budgeting for this dam?
Well, we've only heard about it then, that it happened. That's simply hindsight, right? That there was a plan to do that, and that was the only solution. Because Cameroon told Nigeria, we're going to do this. And experts said, Nigeria, you need to do this. And nothing was done from 1977 to date. And you look at it, you look back at what is happening. There are two types of flooding in Nigeria. The one that you have in the Niger Delta region and the Middle Belt. Some of those ones don't come from the dam.
No,
those are from normal flooding
yes.
from the rain. You have flash flood, water coming from the Niger, and then splashes into communities and all that. But it's becoming serious in recent time. And Nimet has been warning. Even Port Harcourt will be flooded, Obia will be flooded, Bonny will be flooded, Ikwere Moa, entire Orashi. They are alerted, we have floods. So, and the question he asks is very germane. What have we been doing over time?
Nothing.
Apart from the Cameroonian dam, Wahala, we have the natural disasters coming along these areas. And all we hear, I was listening to some residents of the Orashi region and some affected areas in Bayelsa. They are saying, well, every time they tell us to go to higher ground, which is the higher ground now? Are we going to live on top of a mountain? That's all they tell us. That's all they tell them. Higher ground.
Where is the higher ground,
exactly.
Actually? Where is the higher
whenever
ground?
the alert comes, they tell us, please move to higher grounds. And they ask, are we going to create a new...
No. But the thing is that, is there any higher ground provided by either NEMA or the federal government
the
or
higher
the state
ground
government?
is go to where there's no flood. When everywhere is...
Where is the higher ground, especially like in Bayelsa?
Or like in Orashi?
Like in Orashi. Where is the higher ground? There is nothing like higher grounds. Look at even the East-West road that was cut off by last year's flooding.
Yes.
Up till now, that portion of the road is still bad. And we have a government in place. It goes to show, to me, that our government is not responsive enough, to the plight of the people. Because if they are to follow the warnings of the Cameroonian government, by now they were supposed to have fixed things in place.
And there's this cooperation between Nigeria and Cameroon on this flood issue.
Yes.
It's just that we have not done our own job to stem the tide of that excess water coming from Cameroonian dam. If we had done our own job by putting the dam in place, I'm sure by now that issue would have been settled. We would have been talking about our own flooding.
Every year, government,
our own flooding.
Every 4 years, government will come and go. They are not talking about anything to do to at least to stop this flooding to an extent.
That one can be settled. Then we begin to talk about our own.
Before we talk about our own, building our own dam.
Exactly. And our own flooding too. Because what I see there is, if you go to Russia area, somebody was telling me recently that's only in Erema area, and you can see the so-called higher land, higher ground.
Yes.
And so are we going to be building IDP camps in Erema for the whole of those in the Russia area?
Maybe.
Erema and maybe what's the other community? There's another community there along that road. These are the only higher grounds you have. The rest are within the floodplain.
The whole of Ngene area will be covered. No,
the whole of Ahoda West and East is covered. Only that Erema axis, Egi axis that you can have.
Egi axis.
That's
well, let's believe that maybe this time.
So they should be building IDP camps there.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing to do. If not, water will carry people away, carry their houses, carry their farmlands, their crops, and carry everything.
Then in the city, there's a prediction there's going to be city flood, flash flood.
Well, that one can be handled by the state government.
There will be starvation next year.
Just like what happened this year. That is what we are experiencing now.
If you put it, and more local government are flooded, there's trouble.
There is trouble because now the only areas where we can have food supplies from will be the Eche and Ogoni area. That's all.
And even Ogoni, yes, one local government was mentioned in that prediction. Yes, look, got 19 out of 23 local government areas.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's exactly. So you can see that only few local governments were spared. So there's a general atmosphere of flooding. Now maybe Gokana will be affected.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Gokana will be affected. Gokana is much more on the floodplain.
But let's believe that Rivers State government is going to do something.
No, the only thing they're going to do is emergency action. That's all.
Why is it that it is always emergency?
That's all they can do.
Time?
Because what should be done would have been to have lasting solutions like building dikes.
That's what I am trying to say. Mm-hmm. There is supposed to be a lasting solution to this problem of flooding, even on the part of the federal government. That's why I asked, is there no proactive measures they can take to stop this flooding when it comes from that Lado dam? Is there nothing they can do to stop it?
And you recall that when the Cameroonians were interacting with Nigeria, the agency they talked about was NEMA. So it's an emergency issue. All we can do is emergency. That's what it means. We don't seem to hear that some particular ministries, Ministry of Works, Ministry of any of these ministries dealing with serious infrastructure, is being contacted and is doing something. We have not heard that. What you're hearing is NEMA. That is get ready for an emergency.
And humanitarian Ministry of
Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation. These are the agencies you're hearing. And they have flood committees in various states.
Beautiful.
And beyond that, what happens?
And the amount of money we spend for these emergencies, they are not monies that if you want to find out how to put them together, putting them together to achieve something, they are not monies that if twice of that will be able to handle something tangible for us. But every time we'll be talking of emergency.
Yeah, let's look at the next story. Well, the Lagos State government has directed law enforcement agencies to detain motorists with defective vehicle registration number plates and those without any number fixed on their vehicles. In a chat with newsmen, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Transportation, Mr. Abdulaziz Toriola, regretted that the wrongful use of number plates has become rampant. Toriola, who cited Section 16 of Lagos State Transport Sector Reform Law of 2018, stated that a vehicle without a number can be used to commit crimes that may never be tracked. He said, the purpose of using number plate is for proper identification and security, as it is personalized for each vehicle. Well, Lagos State has been making a lot of money from this. That is where they make their revenue. They get virtually all the cars in Port Harcourt have Lagos number, including yours and mine. So now they're talking about revenue generation. And they're instituting this policy to generate more revenues. And this is because they have these Lagos seaports where cars are imported. And when you import these cars, you register.
That's true.
And that's why Lagos is the 5th largest economy in Africa.
Even the one that is coming through Benin Republic, you have to pass through Lagos, and the registration will be done in Lagos.
So they will do everything to make sure that every vehicle is registered. And of course, it's a security measure. That is the good thing about it. If every state can learn from what's happening in Lagos to ensure that people don't drive vehicles that are not well identified.
But excuse me, sir, sorry, let me ask you one question. Is it possible? We have seen situations where even vehicles with plate numbers are used to commit crime.
Exactly. That is authorized plate numbers.
Yes, authorized plate numbers are used to commit crimes. Not one, not twice, not twice, even in Port Harcourt.
Yes.
You know, because when you say that people use vehicles without plate numbers, you know, to commit crime, how about the ones that they use the ones that has plate numbers that they are using to commit crime? So, well, the most important thing is that, well, all vehicles must have plate numbers, and I don't see how a vehicle will be operating without plate number. I have not seen.
And there's this attitude of changing plate numbers. You know,
except it is faded. Yes. Of course, you have to.
No, I'm talking about people change it. Apart from security numbers, you know, we have security numbers. So sometimes we are driving with a normal number and you want to be shielded, you replace it to security. But people just move number plates from one car to the other. It's still part of what Lagos is doing.
Yes, which is very wrong.
Now, if you look at that sticker in front of a car after registering a car, you will see the authorized number, and it must rhyme with. So when you
plate number.
Yes, when you drop out of safety, for example, they look at your car. That thing is there. They don't have any need to check for any plate number because it tallies. You know, so Lagos has a proper digitized process of registering cars and doing all that revenue system. Well, I hope that in Rivers State we'll get to that point because Lagos has gone to a very high point of digitization in terms of revenue generation processes. And that is something that states can emulate. Because you look at why Lagos is making so much money. Rivers State is distant second to revenue in terms of revenue generation to Lagos. If you have Ogun State, you have states like Kano
State,
Kano and all that coming second, third, distant. I mean, third
and fourth,
distant, third and fourth, and all that. Some other states. Well, let's look at the last story for this segment. Food import rise by 122%. The National Bureau for Statistics has reported that Nigeria is not growing enough food for the populace, leaving the country with no option but to import. Consequently, to feed its steady rising population, the population rising, the country recorded recorded a 121.7% increase in the value of imported food within the 5-year period, rising to 1.9 trillion in 2022 from 857 billion in 2018. According to the report, development may now be unconnected with the heightening of insecurity in the country, especially around the agricultural belt, which has forced many farmers to abandon their farmland, thus prompting the government to spend millions of dollars importing food annually. Data obtained from the National Bureau of Statistics and the Central Bank of Nigeria revealed that the total agricultural imports into Nigeria from 2018 to 2022 amounted to 6.916 trillion import, while total agricultural exports from the country within the period is 1.997. That's a deficit, trillion, resulting in an agricultural trade deficit of 4.919 trillion, not million.
Trillion.
And of course, the reasons are there because of insecurity. That's the second reason, and you know that. The flood. So while we're talking about insecurity in the Middle Belt and the Niger Delta and other parts of the country, that has affected food production. Now we are talking about flood that is wiping away. I will listen to a feature from one of the sister TV stations, and it was coming from Benue State. And a man was quoting how his 2 million naira worth of rice farm was swept away. And that with the recent flood alert he was not sure he was going to cultivate anything this year. And so many farmers were complaining. So we're talking about the deficit, 4.919 trillion naira deficit, trade deficit.
Yes. And that is why you see the naira is jumping
exactly,
up now.
Because the naira cannot stabilize
if
we're not producing. So it's only production that can give naira the weight it deserves.
Aside insecurity and flooding, there is another problem that I think the federal government may have failed to look at.
Yes.
They failed to look at this issue of open grazing.
That's insecurity. That's what's causing insecurity.
Open grazing,
yes.
Which of course people will take their cattle into a cassava farm, into a rice farm, and you see that the entire crops will be eaten off by these animals. That's one aspect. And then when people will protest about this, against what is happening to their farmlands, then you see killings. You see communities will be sacked and all that. These are the problem. And people cannot go to farm again. Look at what happened in Kaduna State recently. Look at what happened in Plateau State recently. Look at what happened in Niger and, of course, Benue State. These are some of the issues when we talk about a responsive government. Now they are telling us the statistics, they are giving us a statistics of how much trillion, about 6-point-something trillion, you know, for importation of foods alone. This is something that they would have been able to manage if we have, of course, managed our insecurity properly. But they pay less attention, even with the trillions of budget. I hear the military takes about 1-point-something trillion now, budgets for security. And with all that, we've not been able to curb this menace. They are still there with us. People are being sacked from their communities. People are being threatened and all that. People cannot go to farm. Even in the southeast, the same problem we are getting. In River State, we have seen situations where people will enter into a farmland and with their cattle and they will finish the entire crops there. These are some of the issues, and government is not addressing it. So why will it not be that we will spend 6-point-something trillion to import foods? If that money, if we want to save that money, then we will face insecurity.
Exactly.
Now we are talking about flooding. There has been high alert, you know, of rainfall and it's going to cause flooding. The government hasn't done anything about it up till now. Now, dam again, Cameroon, they want to open their dam. These are things that are causing these issues, food shortage for us. And at the end of the day, we keep spending money, not thinking of how to conserve this money, how to build a secure economy where we'll have protection for our farmers. I know that the last administration, the central bank tried as much as possible, you know, to see how they can boost agricultural production. But all the same insecurity in the northern state.
Well,
we are here now because of insecurity.
Yeah. Thank you very much. As much we can take for this segment, this half hour. In the next half hour, the next half hour will be the next segment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're welcome back, and if you're just joining us, it is Press Roundtable on Atlantic Television Network live here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. Let's get back to our stories. And the first story on this segment is coming from Bayelsa State, talking about the poll there in November. I will not spill blood to retain government seat. Governor Doye Diri of Bayelsa State has promised that he will not spill blood to retain his position ahead of November 11 governorship election in the state. He spoke at Obolomabiri after assessing the security situation in neighboring Basambri in Nembe, local government area of the state. Weekend. Men of the police, strategic weapons and tactical SWAT team and some non-state actors in military camouflage on August 12 invaded Basambri community, and the others of the acting Inspector General of the police. Some persons suffered gunshot injuries as a result of the invasion, while many others were displaced. Addressing the displaced Basambri indigents at the King Koko Square at Obolomabiri, the governor said anyone who sacrifices the lives of the people in order to gain political power does not deserve to lead the state. It sounded like Jonathan, right?
Very much like Jonathan.
Yeah.
Very much like Jonathan.
Go ahead.
And that's his nature. Governor Diri is somebody that I admire so much. His style of leadership. He is not a politician that is crazy about power. No, from what I have seen so far. He is a very modest politician. He does not want his interest to prevail on the people. I've been there several times when things are going wrong, and he will step in immediately. But there is something I want to say about this Basambri and Obolomabiri in Nembe. These two communities are always very, very wonderful when it comes to fighting. These are areas where if you are not very firm as a government, it is difficult to tame them, Nembe local government. And so I am not surprised that it is starting from there. But again, how come the Inspector General of Police will send the SWAT to go there and start to cause serious crisis with other state actors or
some non-state
actors? Well, I believe that just like the governor said, his ambition is not worth the blood of an individual, an indigene.
Because he was looking at that place as a flashpoint.
It is, of course,
electoral crisis. You know,
that is how Nembe is.
Yes. You know, but you look at hindsight. Go to late 18th century. Go to late 18th century. Even late 17th century. Go to some early part of 19th century. You hear about Akasa raid.
Akasa.
And all that.
Even
the confrontation. They are the same zone.
They are like that.
The confrontation with the colonial master. So history they are one of the most active, militant, volatile communities or climes in the Niger Delta.
In the Niger Delta.
Right from history, right from the 17th century.
And so it has been so always, and it is still there, and it will be there. And so if you are conducting an election in Nembe, you have to be very sure of what you are doing.
So I think that he's trying to preempt, knowing that the place is soaked with some kind of violence.
It's always a very volatile area, yes, when it comes to election. And not just election, even communal clashes.
Yes, he's afraid that this may dovetail into an electoral crisis.
Yes, because
in November.
You know, now that Mipre Silva is coming back, it's going to be a fight, that is a total fight in Bayelsa. And you know that somebody who has been there, of course, he has his foot soldiers on ground and all that. He will have people who will be working for him.
And that is his region, right?
Yes. And so it is not something that will be easy for even the government of Bayelsa State. Of course, don't rule out the point that Timipre Silva is an APC person. And recently we heard that he held a meeting, with the president at the House of Villa. You don't know their level of discussion. And of course, also consider INEC's role when it comes to election and all that. We are still fighting the election matter now in the tribunal. So
where are the we? I mean, the political actors are still fighting.
Yes.
Not we.
No, when I say we, it's the entire Nigeria because it affects everybody.
You have to be specific because a media person.
Okay, yes. Let it not be that I'm part of it. No.
We are dispassionate.
Yes. And so you see, don't rule out the fact that INEC might decide to come in, Now, these are some of the things that the governor has started going around sensitizing people.
Okay.
Apart from the fact that his blood is not what, his ambition is not what the blood of an indigene of Bayelsa. There is also the fact that there are areas where it is difficult, to conduct election if they are not well secured by armed soldiers and policemen, like Nembe. So he has to start from there. So that's exactly what he's doing. And I know that he's a very peaceful person.
Yes, let's look at the next story. A list of 6 civil society organizations from across West Africa has publicly cautioned the Economic Community of West Africa against forcing the sub-region into an armed conflict. The coalition argued that such an approach would only amplify the suffering of the people. In a joint statement, Dr. Zikai Mulai Ibrahim, the convener of the coalition, said, unquote, the coalition rejects the attempts by decision makers to reroad the sub-region towards an armed conflict, which in all intents and purposes will further multiply the misery and suffering of ordinary citizens. He called on ECOWAS to strive for democracy, both in spirit and character, as a means to restore peace and order in the region. Well, a lot of people are talking, and now a coalition of NGOs have also spoken, and that's something we have to look at.
Not just the NGOs, even some other countries like Mali, countries like...
No, I'm not taking Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea seriously, because they are partners in crime. Of course, there's a decree now in Niger Republic. That decree in Niger Republic was promulgated to allow these countries come into Niger to help them defend their country against ECOWAS, possibly ECOWAS invasion.
The junta.
The junta.
So is that why you're not taking them seriously?
No. I'm not taking them seriously as...
But I'm thinking they are also preaching peace in the region.
No, they are saying they will join a coalition of forces in Niger
if...
But that's not peace. That's a threat.
No, I'm not saying it's like that. Because they are all saying that there should be peace in the region.
Yes.
And that if ECOWAS will want to go to war with Niger Republic, that's where they will come in. But I believe that they are also preaching peace. I want to join the civil society organization, to also tell ECOWAS, to preach peace. See how they can dialogue. See how they can come to a roundtable to discuss the way out, outside war, outside military invasion and all that of Niger Republic, because it will not do us any good. For instance, Nigeria, we are part of ECOWAS, and you know that we have a lot of crises on our hands. We have not been able to tackle our own economic problems, and then we will also join to go to war. See how much that is going to cost in terms of inflation, in terms of even the insecurity we are talking about in this country. And don't forget that about 7 states in Nigeria, about 6 or 7 states, can't really remember.
7 frontline states.
Beautiful. They all have boundaries with Niger Republic. And so whatever that happens to Niger Republic will affect us in a way. So I am thinking peace is the only way forward.
Even our military already away. 26 were killed in Niger. 26 by ordinary bandits.
That's the problem. So peace is the only way out of this problem.
All right, let's look at the next story. It has to do with the behavior of our people. Lack of trust. You know, residents of Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, on Sunday reportedly invaded and looted a warehouse where palliatives are kept. The warehouse, located in Pansia suburb of the state capital, is where the 2022 flood palliatives were stored. However, it was not confirmed whether the subsidy palliatives provided by President Tinubu to states to cushion the effects of the subsidy removal are among the items looted by hungry residents. Confirming the invasion of the warehouse, the Bayelsa State Emergency Management Agency said the incident occurred at about 7:45 p.m. on Sunday, almost an hour after the Director General, William Igrubia, alongside some Baisema personnel, left the warehouse premises, adding that during the 2022 flood in the state, the agency used the warehouse to store food items. Also condemns the attempt to politicize the incident by opposition elements in the state. What is there to politicize? They looted. And there could be a reason why the looting took place. You see, you do something wrong and something wrong happens and you become defensive and sometimes offensive.
No,
it doesn't make sense.
You see, now the palliatives, that the so-called palliatives that the people looted, was it meant for flooding? Was it like flood palliative? Was it like, what was the other one, COVID-19 palliative? These are palliative.
No, all the government Tinubu, President Tinubu palliative.
I think it is the President Tinubu's palliative.
Not the flood palliative.
Not flood.
They say the flood palliatives were kept there.
That was the last flood. And so they decided to also keep this one until when flood comes. This is palliative meant for the people now. Why keeping it? You remember in Lagos, during the lockdown, they also stored palliative. I don't know why they were storing it. Instead of giving this palliative out to people, they stored it. And people went there and broke the place open and collected everything. Now, these are some of the reasons why I say that we don't have a responsive government. Because when you know that these people are suffering, and thank God that the president released, like we had 5 billion to each state, and then of course trailer loads of palliative, and then you are storing it. You want to store it to use it as a campaign material? You want to store it to score political points or what? Why not share it out? Now they've looted all. So why are you blaming the people? The people should not be blamed, because I think it is when somebody is hungry that he will look for food. And if they've seen food in a warehouse, of course, they will go with the food.
Why is it that Nigerians are not patient? Because one, yes, you're right, they are hungry, they should look for food. But Nigerians should be patient. The presidential palliative just came in, and states are looking for ways and means of handling it. Some states may have decided to say, okay, let's keep these things to take care of IDPs during the flood, when the flood takes place. That
was it meant for that? That's my question.
It's still a palliative to assuage.
Was it meant for that? Was it meant for flooding? No, this is some of the problems.
It's for the people.
It's for the people. And we heard that some states have started sharing their own. Why are they keeping their own? These things are supposed to have been planned even before its arrival, so that you don't have situations like this.
But it must be stocked before you share.
Yes, it must be stocked. And now, how many days?
How long has it been stocked?
How long has it been there? How long? That's the question. I'm thinking that in an organized setting, these things are supposed to have been, in fact, shared even before they arrive, so that as they are just arriving, just like electoral materials,
yes,
by the next day or 2 days after, you start sharing it to the various local government according to the way you have planned before the arrival of this.
My take about all this stuff is that the whole hula balu has proven that we don't really need all these food palliatives. government needs to put their leg on the ground and bring about, constructive, infrastructural and productive ventures on ground, not food. Do things that can bring productivity back to the government, to the people. Things that can create jobs. Things that can, solve the food problem immediately, rather than food.
We don't like
transportation, for example. Subsidizing education, for example. Fuel in a particular way through transportation. That should have been better, not giving gari and rice. And you can see the reason why it's not working. It's not working.
It's
only going to lead to some of these riots that we're seeing and confusion we're seeing in the system. But that's the much we can have on this program. Tomorrow is another date. Don't forget, ATM Press Roundtable come to you live on this frequency 7 to 8 every day, Monday to Friday. And of course, Clem Lemeke has been here. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
Tomorrow is another date. And don't forget, you watch us on our various social media platforms. They're there on Twitter, now called X, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok. They're all there. Watch us live on our website, AtlanticTelevision.tv, on our app, ATN Live, on YouTube and Facebook. We're there. Well, on this program, we provide you with the right narrative and news narration. Global news comes up next at 9 p.m. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Don't forget, make peace your watchword. My name is Bon Woke. Stay tuned for our global roundup at 9 p.m.